Let me do it by myself. Perhaps the most troubling figure for Trump right now is the number 70. According to the latest Washington Post ABC poll, that's his national unfavorable rating. It's an historic high for a major party's nominee for president. By comparison, Hillary Clinton's viewed unfavorably by 55% of voters, which is also her highest negative number to date. Can Trump turn it around? Robert Costas, national political reporter for the Washington Post and MSNBC political analyst. Michael Steele's the former chair of the Republican National Committee and an MSNBC political analyst. And Steve McMahon is a Democratic strategist. Robert, you've been covering this guy for an awful long time, and I guess my question is this the final plan of the Republican Party to basically say, you don't like Hillary, vote for this guy? Because all we got on the Republican side is a very high number, somewhere close to 50, of negativity toward Hillary, or more.
Chris, there's a sense within the party that Trump is not of the party, that he is just running for Trump. And some of them are comfortable with that. They think he can rouse working-class voters, and his populism and celebrity could draw some people to the polls. But there's not an embrace of bringing him into the fold and of people trying to get into the Trump camp. There's a sense that this is going to go on. They can't stop him at the moment, but they have to just survive and endure.
What's it feel like to be shut off from this guy? How's the gag order working for the Washington Post? Does it work at all? Does it bother your reporting at all? I'm just curious, because he's shut out more and more. Everybody seems to be on this growing list of reporters that Trump says can't come and cover him.
My reporting continues, so does the Washington Post. I've been talking to my Trump sources today. I spoke to Sam Clovis, the campaign chairman, on the record interview in the last couple days. And my sense is in Trump's campaign, they're going with the candidate's gut, and that's to not care about warming up to Paul Ryan or to Leader McConnell in the Senate. This is Trump, and they're going to continue to ride that train.
Let me go with hang in there. Let me go to Michael Steele. There's a sort of a Howard Beale thing catching on here, don't you think?
Yeah, just
you know, from
bit.
Network, a little scary because when you say things, I don't want your help, to go away, basically, shut up.
Well, he's always been an independent actor. He's been a lone wolf in business, certainly been a lone wolf in what he's been doing in terms of national media. This arrangement now is such that you have all these other folks who have an opinion about what you're doing, and they have a way in which they want you to do it. And he's rejecting that.
He needs 5 times the votes in November that he got in the primaries.
Problem.
Does he know that?
He's still running a primary strategy in a general election, in which case
how's that going to work for him?
It's not going to work out well, and I think that's
a setup
not a secret.
Wasn't it?
Yeah, it's a setup for you. Yeah, I try to make your job a little bit easier.
Thank you, Michael. Thank
because
you.
it'll become more difficult later. But
not this November, right?
But this November, when we start talking about other things, but we have to get there first. But the reality for Trump right now, I think, Chris, is does he want to share at least a little bit of that space with the party and its leadership so that they can go into this convention and come out of it on a better footing than they are right now? They've got to bring that 70% number down. They cannot afford to have it grow more.
Yeah,
nor can they have it stick. That's the reality.
I think we still have the big lever in states like Pennsylvania, and I just wonder, Steve, why wouldn't you want to take advantage of the fact that a lot of people were born Republicans, they will end up being dead Republicans because this is the way they were brought up? Why wouldn't you want all those automatic Republican votes if you're Donald Trump?
You would, and you need every single one of them in order to get close, and then you need to convert some of the ones who were Democrats last time in order to win. And he's actually going in the other direction. As Hillary Clinton is consolidating her vote, you know, Bernie Sanders is gracefully pulling off the side of the road.
Why is Hillary spiking to the highest negative she's ever had after the best week she's ever had? I don't get this.
Yeah.
She had a very good week last week, a hell of a speech. She played it brilliantly. She stuck it to Trump, great sarcasm, great substance, up to 55% negative. If it weren't for Trump, she'd be breaking the record.
So it's very difficult, as you know, once you get a negative image.
But it's going
in
up.
someone's
But it's
mind.
going up.
Once you get a negative.
Is it Bernie doing it? Is he still?
Bernie's done it a little bit. Donald Trump has done it some. I expect the Bernie voter to start to warm to Hillary Clinton. It doesn't happen immediately.
Good luck with
that. As it does, you know,
when's he going to quit? We'll get to that in the show.
Structurally, this is still a 7 or 8 point race to Hillary's advantage. You're starting to see that now in the polls, and Donald Trump isn't doing anything to reverse it. He's actually doing something to drive those Republicans away.
I was going to say, which is a key point to understand, that this is still within his grasp to move it in his direction.
But he's moving it the wrong way.
But he's moving it the wrong way.
Okay, earlier today, Senator John McCain accused President Obama of being, quote, his quote, directly responsible for the attack in Orlando this past weekend. Here's the senator's reasoning.
Barack Obama is directly responsible for it because when he pulled everybody out of Iraq, Al-Qaeda went to Syria, became ISIS, and ISIS is what it is today, thanks to Barack Obama's failures, utter failures by everybody out of Iraq, thinking that conflict's in just because we leave. So the responsibility for it lies with President Barack Obama and his failed policies.
How do you say he's directly responsible?
Directly responsible because he pulled everybody out of Iraq, and I predicted at the time that ISIS would go unchecked and there would be attacks on the United States of America. It's a matter of record. So he is directly responsible.
Well, Senator McCain put out a statement later in the day today trying to clarify, quote, "I misspoke. I did not mean to imply that the president was personally responsible. I was referring to President Obama's national security decisions, not the president himself." McCain's comments quickly became political fodder. Senator Harry Reid's spokesman said Senator McCain's unhinged, well, that's an interesting word, unhinged comments are just the latest proof that Senate Republicans are puppets of Donald Trump. Anyway, meanwhile, Trump's campaign manager, Corey Lewandowski, seized on McCain's comments, tweeting out the quote that the president was directly responsible. Interesting. Let me go back to Robert on this. Robert, it's great having you on. I'm trying to figure out this McCain thing. Is this primary politics, general election politics? Because all afternoon he was trying to pull it back, but he ended up saying the same thing. The actions of President Obama led to ISIS and I guess ultimately to this attack because it was blamed on ISIS. It was scored in favor of ISIS, if you will, by the guy who did it. And my question is, why are we getting back into that blame game again when the Democrats could do the same thing to the Republicans for having taken apart the Iraqi army from top to bottom and sending them off to join ISIS? Anybody can play this game. Why is he wanting? What's this partisanship getting vividly unpleasant about all of a sudden?
When Senator McCain was up for re-election in 2010, we saw him ramp up his rhetoric on immigration. He's in a tough re-election fight 6 years later this year, and we see him, when it comes to terrorism and national security, doing the same kind of tactic and strategy. I think what you're seeing from McCain, though, is what you're seeing from a lot of people within the Republican Party. Orlando has changed how they talk about national security, and as much as they're uncomfortable with Trump, they're starting to sound more like Trump when they talk about the threats abroad, when they start to talk about terrorism in Islam.
What is it about election that makes everybody turn into a partisan meatball? I mean, people as smart as McCain, who knows the nuances, who knows all this.
The voters do. The voters are the ones that drive the
What, they
narrative.
want simple?
Well, yeah, sometimes they do, but also what they want is things to be less complicated than they've been. So they're looking for the straightforward, you know, from the hip response to some very complex issues.
I think there's
and the idea that one party's responsible. I mean, I know how to do that too.
Right.
And I do think the de-Baathification program, where you took all the Baathist leaders of Iraq and threw them out without pay, without respect, and they're going to go find another army to fight with, fight in.
Yeah.
There's actually a somewhat more cynical explanation as well, which is gerrymandering in the House makes Republicans fear only...
This is a Senate seat.
I know, but in the Senate, it's the same fear. If you look at all those guys who were vulnerable to Tea Party challenges, both the last time and 2 years before that, they're afraid of their right flank. They're not afraid of the middle or the left.
But we saw it in 2010 with Democrats on Obamacare. It's the same issue, only in reverse for them.
I get respect.
Like logic, though, Michael, you might be responsible for this because you were party chairman.
Absolutely.
Okay, can we do that, not do that here? Just kidding. Because we do it here a lot anyway. I do respect McCain for his war record and what he did for this country, and I do root for him all the time to say the right thing. He doesn't do it all the time, by a long stretch sometimes. Hey, Robert Costa, good to have you back. We miss you. We like you here a lot. And Robert Costa, the star of the reporting team of the Washington Post. Michael Steele, thank you, sir, and thank you, Steve McMahon.